Let's talk some Notre Dame football recruiting on a Friday. We are live on the Blue and Gold YouTube page. I'm Mike Singer, and I'm joined by Kyle Kelly. We cover Notre Dame football recruiting for blueandgold.com. So if you're watching live with us, you're watching back. Thank you for making us a part of your day if you're listening via podcast. Hope you are doing well. We have a good bit to talk about, Kyle. We have like an exhale, like the rush of the summer camps and official visits has ended. The Notre Dame staff is on like sort of, I don't know if you can ever really say they're on vacation, but I think most of the guys are away from the offices now. We're in like a calm before the next storm, but it is a calm right now. Kyle, are you enjoying a little bit more of, we're busy, but it's not as hectic. How about that?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. There was a run for 3 weeks there that, we were working probably 12-hour days for 21 days straight or whatever it may be. And I know the staff's starting to unplug. Hopefully we can start to unplug in a couple weeks as well. But, it feels like we're just in wait-and-see mode now. Like Notre Dame's done all their work. They brought all their guys on official visits. All those guys are going to be elsewhere this weekend. A lot of these guys are going to go in decision mode after this week of official visits. I know some guys are definitive about wanting to get their recruitment shut down before their senior seasons. Others are going to commit on July 5th to Notre Dame Tar Heels. So, that's where we're at right now with Notre Dame football recruiting. The work's been done. Now we just got to see what the outcome is.
Yeah, just reading the chat. Everyone's talking about Duce. K-Mac, good morning. Good afternoon, good evening. I always like to say that whenever you're listening, whenever you're watching. Appreciate you guys making us part of your day. Lotus says Duce is killing it. Joe, what's going on? Murder Cap, good to see you. Michael, hello. I hope everyone is doing well today. My man Mark with glasses says, how does Buckner wearing number 26 affect recruiting? Hey Marcus, it's Mike. How do you think Tyler? I'm kidding. Who's gonna start a position to get to him wear a better number? Yeah, how about that? Let's talk Tyler Buckner. I'm kidding. We're not going to spend any time on that.
We already did that.
We did that. People talking about Duce Night. That's actually where we're going to start today's show. But please hit the thumbs up on this video first to subscribe to the channel for more content. And if you're listening via podcast, wherever you listen to those, Apple, Spotify, whatever the case may be, we would really appreciate if you would leave us a 5-star review if you like this show. And leave us a comment saying how handsome we are. And you can just tell on podcasts how handsome Kyle and I are. Really, Kyle with the baby blues.
That's all I got going for me.
I want to start, Kyle, because a lot of people were very confused by this on social media, and I don't really know why. It's really not that complicated. But so On3 put out that their MVP for the event, and Charles Power was there, was Duce Knight. Like Charles watched all 3 days and he said Duce Knight is my top overall performer. And then like 10 minutes later, the Elite 11 put out their MVP of Keelan Russell, and everyone's like, well, who is the MVP? I don't know what to believe. What's going on? I'm confused. Like, guys, it's not that difficult. The Elite 11 staff, which takes into account film of junior season, traits, and like classroom perform, like when they're in meetings and stuff between sessions, those things are all taken into account. Whereas Charles is just saying, here's what I think, who's the best player. And then 24/7 had the St. Clair, the Ohio State commit, as their top performer. So I don't really know what the big fuss about it was on social media. Everyone's like, who's the MVP? Like, everyone can have their different opinions. It's a very subjective business. So Duce Knight was On3's MVP, and just a weekend before Kyle at the OT7, which didn't have as the same level of quarterback, like the same caliber of quarterbacks as this weekend did. Still, Duce lit it up last weekend, and then this week with guys like Julian Lewis, Tavion St. Clair, the Texas A&M commit, who I know is really good, had a good week.
Houston Longstreet.
Yeah,
Keelan
Longstreet.
Russell.
Yeah, Keelan Russell, the Bama. Like, Charles has Duce as his top performer. And before I get your thoughts on this, Kyle, and I have a little bit of footage, nothing crazy. I just kind of put this together from some tweets and On3 put out. Like, from what I know about Charles Power and how he likes to rank, it's guys that are on the upward trend, right? My high school quarterback, just kind of give you guys a little bit of like context on it. Like, he came into high school with a full beard, hairy chest, hairy legs. Like, you could tell he was capped out. Like, there was no more for him. He looked the same as a freshman in high school as he did a senior. Like, that was it. That was it for him. Anthony, if you're watching, I love you, bro. But like, then you look at someone like a Joe Alt, and you're like, oh, you can see that he is going to go up on the trend, right? So I think like Power, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. Like, I think he sees Carr, and that's why he ranks Carr lower than the other sites. I don't think he sees Carr doing a ton of this, like in terms of, you know, just him growing as a player. I think he doesn't see that. Whereas with Knight, it's the complete opposite. Knight didn't get private quarterback training until like early in the spring or like late February. And Charles saw Knight at the Under Armour camp in Carrollton, Georgia. Knight did not have a strong day. He really didn't. He looked great, tested great, all those things. Just did not. And he was playing basketball and stuff. Like he wasn't at his freshest as a football player at that point. But to go from that to the OT7 to the Elite 11 a week later, you see this trend upwards. So I know Charles loves that. Guys who are continuing to get better throughout their high school careers. And Duce is 6'4.5", 210 pounds, and he runs a 4.5 getting out of bed. Like, he's a freak show, and you bet on freak shows for sure. So yeah, it's exciting, man. I'm pumped for Duce. Someone who's known him for a while and met him in person a number of times. Like, I'm like excited for him, proud of him, all that kind of stuff.
Here's the thing. I think as human beings, like, we all naturally care most about like what's next, what's upcoming, like what's exciting, what intrigues us. And I think recruiting rankings are the same way, as you were alluding to. Everyone's excited by the upside. You know, if there's someone that's a little more polished, for example, like CJ Carr, you know, his ranking reflected that, whereas Duce Knight is just scratching the surface. And what I was most excited about Duce Knight's little run of outstanding performances here was that he's getting better each and every week. You mentioned how he performed down Atlanta at the Under Armour camp, and I remember talking to you after that, and you were basically like, well, he's basically got some rust to knock off, sort of thing. And he's done that throughout the offseason. And it seems like everyone, especially the experts like Charles Power, On3's director of scouting and rankings, you know, they see the progression and they see the growth. And that's really exciting to see as a Notre Dame fan, because, I mean, there's some guys who are just super raw and they're exciting. They have all the traits, but they just never figure it out. Yeah. And what we're seeing with Duce Knight is he's starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
And he's doing it on the national stage. Everyone's taking notice. And the other big takeaway for me is the recruits are taking notice as well. I know all Notre Dame's class is behind Duce Knight. They've all shared and posted about him winning, or On3 naming him MVP of the Elite 11. And I know some targets have taken notice as well and also shouted him out on social media.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal for Notre Dame, that their face and the headliner of their 25 class is out on the national stage, and he's got all the lights on him, and he's continuing to excel. So there is a lot to be excited about with the potential of Duce Knight in Notre Dame football.
Yeah, Andrew says, do you expect Duce ranking to go up? I always like to say when I get this question is to never expect anything with rankings. If anything, just expect someone's going to go down, just so you can temper yourself. But I do think he will go up.
Has to.
Does
I
that
will say
typically happen
this.
after lead 11? I do expect them to go up, but listen, guys, we don't want to overreact from one event, though, right? You have sophomore season, junior season. There's other camps and 7-on-7 events. You don't want to freak out and overreact to one event, but I do think that 3-day that's a pretty big sample size. But Charles has always said, and you can disagree with Charles' rankings, you can agree with them, whatever the case may be. And I've done both with him, but I respect the hell out of his process because he's very open and apparent. I'm hoping to get him on the show next Wednesday. What'd you say, Kyle?
I said that dude is smart. He's really intelligent.
He's very smart. I could call him up right now and say, what do you think about, Anthony Knapp from last year? And he'll talk 5 minutes about him straight. Like he does have a lot of detail on the guys. And for some of you, you're rolling your eyes and like, Mike, stop glazing Charles Power. Trust me, I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe it. I would just move on. But this is just really how I feel. And Charles isn't watching this or listening to this. This is just honestly how I feel. But Charles always says the senior season is most important. He talks to me about this all the time. Like the colleges, Notre Dame made their decision on Duce night before his junior season, months before his junior season. I remember talking to a Notre Dame source right before Pot of Gold Day that year, and the source told me Notre Dame's going to be offering Duce night. This might be the guy for the Irish in 2025. Like they did that a long time ago. They were like, we're all in on Duce. The rankings guys, they don't have to do that until after the All-American Bowls and everything. So the senior season, as it should be for a rankings aspect, is the most important thing to see that progression from sophomore to junior to senior year. And then obviously the All-American Bowl is important, but not everyone gets to play in that. Duce, of course. Duce will.
He accepted the invite. We'll see if Notre Dame it sounds like they're going to allow him to go down there now, but I wonder what their stance is in 6 months.
All I'll say is this. CJ Carr did as well. He was going to one of the two games. I think it was the All-American Bowl.
Yeah.
And then he didn't. Take it for what it's worth. We'll see. But yeah, like he tweeted out, he committed to playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see where it goes from there. So that's Duce night on threes, MVP of the camp. Yeah, maybe that Charles Power guy knows what he's talking about. I don't know. He had night ranked the highest of all the science. So I don't know. We'll see. Or as someone else tweeted at me, broken clock is right twice a day. So there you go. Kyle, you put out a story today on Notre Dame commits officially visiting elsewhere. So as we talked about to open the show, Notre Dame is slowly kind of getting into, I don't want to say they're just full on vacation mode. Like these coaches are working on recruiting, but maybe they're doing it from a beach. Other schools are still having official visit weekends this weekend. Notre Dame only had the 2 and then a midweek slot, June 11th through the 13th. But what can you tell us about these two stories you wrote? Notre Dame defensive targets visiting elsewhere and a commit, and then some receiver targets going elsewhere.
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say after writing these stories, and kind of I'll start this way. The way I wrote each one of these stories is I broke down where each Notre Dame target is visiting this weekend, and there's one Notre Dame commit that's going on an opposing official visit. That's Ivan Taylor, who's going to be at Michigan. And just to run down,
hey Kyle, you keep talking, bro. I'm going to get some water. Okay,
go for it. So just to remind everyone, Notre Dame's target board is currently down to 4 wide receivers, 2 linebackers, and 1 safety. 4 wide receivers are Dylan Robinson, John Anthony Hall, Tanook Hines, and Derek Meadows. 2 linebackers they have are Manon Framo, Nathaniel Wusu-Boateng, and the safety is Jadon Blair. So what I did with each one of these stories is I broke down where they're visiting this upcoming weekend. And I took a look at each one of those classes and kind of what the intel is on each one of those sides and discussed it. So uh, in each one of those stories, I tried to provide some context with those recruitments because I know Mike and I were talking about before the show that there's like sometimes our subscribers know about Notre Dame football recruiting more than us because we're so ingrained in our process of reporting on all these guys from the Notre Dame side of things that sometimes we forget that there's other schools involved and the role other schools have in these recruitments. So basically just kind of wrapping up my thought here is basically what I did is did some digging on where the schools stand on each one of these targets and kind of where they would fit into the class and how it affects Notre Dame. So not really too in depth of a story. It was just kind of to give
Yeah.
everyone a taste what's going on heading into this weekend, and we'll surely have more of an idea where Notre Dame stacks up for each one of these guys coming out of the official visits.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like Meadows at Bama is a big one. Blair's at what? Michigan?
Penn
No,
State,
he already did Michigan. Penn
Penn
State.
State.
That's a big one. And then this might be a hot take. Ivan Taylor's visit to like keeping Ivan Taylor in the class might be more important than Meadows. It might be a hot take because they have other good safeties, but
That's
like I don't know.
a
I,
hot take.
I'm
Notre
not
Dame
kidding.
needs wide
Yeah,
receivers,
they do.
but
Um,
Ivan's fantastic,
but
obviously.
yeah, Ivan's so good. Like maybe I'm saying that more because I just don't want people to like sleep on Ivan, but like that he's so important to keep in. And in our reporting on Taylor this week, I will admit it's been a little bit kind of one day I feel great, the next day I don't. Right now I'm somewhere in between. I really don't think he would end up at Michigan. I think it would be Notre Dame or Bama. And right now I'm thinking Notre Dame. I don't know, Kyle. I've talked about this a lot this week. I think we did it on our show the other night. I really have a gut feeling that some of this buzz this week, all the social media stuff, the Steelers connections, I think that might just end up playing into Notre Dame's favor and be an impact kind of deal. So I don't know. We'll see. But he's a big one, man. It's so important that Notre Dame keeps him locked in. I really do think he can be a difference maker in the back end. We saw about Irish Invasion last year, just as a lockdown corner, and he can play deep safety. He's not like if he were 6'2", he would be like a 5-star. And he's already close to being that as is.
Yeah.
But he's just so instinctive. I mean, great cover skills, just knack for the ball. Really, really excited about Ivan Taylor's future, and Notre Dame fans hope that that is in South Bend, Indiana. So, Kyle, I mean, wanted to just move forward with okay. Notre Dame has 21 commits. It's a top 10 class in the country. Overarching, what's next for the Fighting Irish? You just want to go recruit by recruit, just kind of just march through it.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it, I'd say.
So here's one off the board. Of all the Notre Dame official visitors, I think this is the only one where it's like, all right, we got our answer, right? I mean, of course, besides the committed guys, uh, or the committed guys who may or may not be wavering, but this is the one. It's Jameer Joseph from Audric Estime School. I always wrote that I thought Penn State was the leader. And he did end up committing to the Nittany Lions the Monday after taking an official visit there. He was there the weekend of the 14th through the 16th and then announced it on the 17th. So Notre Dame was recruiting him as a corner and then a safety. And man, Kyle, if Notre Dame doesn't land Jadon Blair, they didn't land Jameer Joseph, and if Ivan Taylor flips, there's a problem there at safety because then you're down to just one. Whereas you thought there might be three with an incredible trio of Ethan Long, Ivan Taylor, and Jadon Blair. If you don't get Blair, say he goes to Michigan or Penn State, and then you lose Taylor to Alabama or something, and then then they would need to to get to work and probably have some senior season evaluations. That would be tough. I didn't really thought about that possibility, but it is a possibility, Kyle.
I think aside from Duce Knight flipping, that's probably Notre Dame's worst nightmare is Taylor flipping and Blair going elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because you look at the way safety recruiting has gone the last few cycles, I mean, they really kind of got through it by the skin of their teeth, thanks to Tom Bolden down in Westchester, Ohio, Lakota West, with
Yeah.
Ben Minnick and Bron Benny Powell. Like, those guys kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And, I think both those guys have question marks about their game, both really talented players. But yeah, those were some last minute guys in each cycle that they went after, and I don't think Notre Dame wants to be in that position again. I know there's some guys out there, like for example, during football season they brought in a guy from Cleveland St. Ignatius, who I think is flirting around the 3-star, 4-star range. Safety Cody Haddad. He committed to Wisconsin, and then his recruitment blew up. He got offers from Texas A&M, Ohio State, tons of other major blue blood programs. Ohio State flipped him, and that was a guy that if Notre Dame would have offered, they would immediately become the team to beat. But they chose to go all in on Jadon Blair. Obviously, they had already had Ivan Taylor and Ethan Long. So that really narrowed their safety board, and now there's a lot of guys committed. Not a lot of remaining options. So it's basically Blair or bust, and they're really going to need to keep Ivan Taylor in this class.
Yeah, Drew said, what about Golden? He's listed as a safety, could play safety. Notre Dame's recruitment as corner. So there's different things they could do, like Bettis. Personally, I think Bettis ends up at safety down the road, but he's coming as a receiver. That'll be his first shot. But I've seen him in person, and I think his highest upside might be at safety. But seriously, don't sleep on Jerome Bettis, though. He's a nice pass catcher as well. I will say, like, you mentioned Benny Powell and Minnick. Those were both like evaluations, and they weren't like the first targets. They were more of, hey, we'll come to camp, let's evaluate you. Like Minnick committed in late July that year. Benny Powell was in June, I think, like after a camp or something. And then I even think of like a Logan Saldate. That, it was during the dead period. Notre Dame was looking at some receiver options after Isaiah Canyon decommitted, and he sent in some tape, and Saldate ended up like a 4-star top 300 type of kid. So it wouldn't be the end of the world. You can still do those type of things, but the priority, your favorite word, Kyle, is it. You definitely get closer to winning a national championship if you have Jadon Blair and Ivan Taylor. It's not the end of the world, but it would not be ideal. It would not be ideal. Then we're going to be talking about safety recruiting, like Tim Hyde talks about receiver recruiting. So we will see. Moving on, though, this is a huge one. Madden Fremo from J. Sarah Catholic in Southern California canceled that Ohio State visit. Well, I don't know. It depends who you ask how it got canceled. But regardless, the visit was canceled and really seems down to what, like Notre Dame. Is he visiting somewhere this weekend? Texas?
Yeah, he'll be at Texas, and the 4 teams to know here: Notre Dame, USC, Texas, and Washington.
Okay. Yeah, I would be surprised if Texas is a huge contender. I think it's going to be Notre Dame or USC. I like Notre Dame. I put in that prediction after his official visit earlier this month, and I'm still feeling pretty good about it. Kyle, do you have anything you wanted to add?
This recruitment is a really tough one to get a read on. I've talked to Madden a couple times, and
hey, don't sell yourself short. It's been a few times.
And I can't really get a great read. I do think Notre Dame's a team to beat. I feel that confident right now. But Washington has something here. I don't know what it is. I mean, I know one of his teammates, Jake Flores, who's an offensive lineman, from just Sarah Catholic. He's verbally committed to Washington. I know he had a great visit in Washington. So I'm keeping an eye on them. And then I think USC was working from behind a little bit,
Okay.
and they might be they're giving Framo some things to consider. So what the impression that I have, they brought him on campus. I think after his Notre Dame visit for an unofficial visit, he's already
Yeah.
been there probably a dozen times by now. As far as Texas, Framo spoke to On3's Chad Simmons about that visit, and Framo basically told Simmons that the reason he's visiting Texas, well, he didn't say this is the reason, but he mentioned in his comments that he wants to stack his other visits against Texas. So that basically tells me that they're on the outside looking. I mean, being that he's on official visit, they could absolutely make a move in his
Yeah.
recruitment. But I know from people on Texas side, they think he's going to end up at Notre Dame. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see what happens here. This recruitment, obviously, we've talked before, reminds us a lot of
Okay.
Kingston William-Wasa.
Yeah.
We all
That's
know how that one turned out.
that's
So
where I was gonna go next. Like I was gonna ask you just a yes or no question. You get Kingston vibes with Madden.
Madden gets Kingston vibes with himself. He told me that. He's
Yeah.
like, he sees the similarities
I
between both those two guys, and
yeah. I think
Kingston has become a big time resource in Madden's recruitment.
and I think there's something to this like the Polynesian culture that is just very just fits Notre Dame. I just don't see him going anywhere else. I think it's gonna be Notre Dame. Like if there's like a close to home thing, that's why I said USC. I just don't
Mhm.
see Washington. I don't see Texas for Madden. I think it's Notre Dame or he wants to stay close to home. So that's kind of what I'm
Washington's more in it than I thought. That's
okay.
all I
I
said.
like that. I like that. Respect.
I
Respect.
kind of said the same thing with Derek Meadows in Michigan on our board. I think last week or the week before that Michigan's more in it for Derek Meadows than what I thought. So I kind of share those similar sentiments with the respective programs recruiting each prospect.
Okay. Nathaniel Usubotang, fresh off the Ohio State visits, but the vibe is that might end up being. And where's he at this weekend?
Michigan.
Michigan. The vibe though is Notre Dame USC. Is that what you're getting?
Yeah, Nathaniel's he's another one that's tough to read, but I will say this, when I talked to him after his Notre Dame visit, there's two things that stuck out to me. Number one, he said that, he was moving up his commitment timeline just and he basically said that's how great my Notre Dame visit was. He feels that they showed him everything, and now I think he's looking for other schools to match that. The other thing he told me that there are three schools in his recruitment that are recruiting him the hardest, and one of them was Notre Dame. And now coming out of the Ohio State visit, the sense that I get that it's USC and Michigan as the other contenders for him. Michigan doesn't really have a ton of commits in their class. They don't have any linebackers. Their top defensive commit, Nathaniel Marshall from the Chicago area, who's a five-star guy. He's kind of wavering with his pledge, considering Auburn, Miami, and a couple others. So they need a defensive face of the class, and I think Nathaniel Wusu-Boateng could be that in Michigan. USC, I think they're kind of selling him on everything they sell every recruit. I guess the potential, Hollywood, spotlight, NIL, all that. So, and I know Nathaniel is, very excited about like some of those off the field opportunities.
Yeah.
But I'll kind of take a line out of Steve Wiltfong's dictionary or whatever you want to call it, is that he says that when you're talking about a prospect and you're always talking about, like the schools are considering, and it's always like, say for Nathaniel Wusu-Boateng, for example, it's USC and Notre Dame. It's Michigan and Notre Dame. Well, what's the one constant there? Notre Dame. So I think that's where things are with Nathaniel Wusu-Boateng right now. They got to fend off a visit in Ann Arbor this weekend and hopefully regain grasp and hold on for a commitment.
Folks, if you like this kind of insight, this is what we do on a daily basis at blueandgold.com. So let me fire up an incognito window. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see. So I'm not logged in. Okay, so you would go to blueandgold.com. It says right there, join today, get 1 month of unlimited access for $1. So you can go to the offers page here, and it's just that easy to subscribe. There's an ad free option as well for an annual subscription, which I know a lot of people would probably be interested in. So yeah, blueandgold.com, folks. I mean, as Kyle was talking, I was just like, damn, Kyle's really good at giving these insight on the recruits. And we just do this YouTube show once per week. And we only really scratch the surface on everything that we cover over on our website, which is, of course, blueandgold.com. Going back to Owusu Boateng, I'll admit for a while there, I was like, I don't see it. But as this recruitment, like, I don't see Notre Dame as the leader. As the thing has gone on, I'm feeling better about where the Fighting Irish are. Remember when he took that junior day visit in January? That was his first time on campus. Remember Notre Dame sources absolutely gushing about how well it went. Time went on. Did he come back in the spring?
No. And real quick, Mike, his
Yeah.
recruitment was really interesting because he was basically zeroed in on Georgia, South Carolina, and Stanford for his official visits. Went on Ohio State, USC, and Michigan unofficials. All those schools got official visits. Notre Dame didn't stop working on him behind the scenes. And
then he canceled the other ones.
Yeah, so that was crazy.
Yeah. So I'm like where the Irish are at more and more. Yeah.
It is. It's surprising to see kind of where Notre Dame stands, because when I talked to him last summer, I think, and then talking to some other Notre Dame guys on the beat that have also talked to Nathaniel, we all kind of thought, man, if this goes Notre Dame's way, we're going to be surprised. It just felt like he wanted to pave his own path. And I think that tune has changed since he got on campus and really saw, what Notre Dame did for his half-brother, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
I feel like Jeremiah, opened the door for Notre Dame to get in this recruitment, and ever since it's been more about his connection with the staff and not the legacy thing. I think it's been. Does that make sense, Kyle? Jeremiah got it in the door. Otherwise, maybe he wouldn't have even looked at Notre Dame. Well, I don't want to go play in South Bend, Indiana. But hey, brother went here. Let me go check it out. And then I think he's fallen in love with the place. So it would be huge, man. It would be huge.
Let me make this quick, Mike, because there was a key figure in this Notre Dame recruitment. That was Dre Brown, who was Notre Dame's director of recruiting for a brief stint, was director of high school scouting for much longer, but he was very involved in the recruiting operation before going to Illinois, his alma mater, this offseason. Dre did a phenomenal job in Owusu Boateng's recruitment, was one of the key reasons why he got up to campus. And kind of after Brown left, I mean, Max Bolo, when he was promoted to linebackers coach, was already getting heavily involved, but he really just went full stride from there. And I know Owusu Boateng loves Bola as well. So those are two guys, if you really want to give credit to, of why Notre Dame's really in the picture right now, aside from his brother, I would point to Dre Brown and Max Bola.
Yeah. All right, let's go quickly through the receivers. John Anthony Hall, Fishers, Indiana, took that official visit to Notre Dame June 11th through 13th. From what I've been told about John Anthony, he's a kind of a wild card. He could really do anything. No one has a super strong feel. My guess right now is that he ends up elsewhere, but it very well could end up at Notre Dame. That wouldn't shock me either. But my guess is what his other schools are: Stanford, Northwestern, Purdue, I believe. I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up elsewhere. I think Michigan's also in the mix as well. Dylan Robinson, I think Notre Dame or Washington. I personally think he ends up at Notre Dame. Tanook Hines is, man, this has been a long week. We talked about him this show, right? Was that earlier? Was that today?
No, I think we probably talked about him on Wednesday or Tuesday during that show, whenever that was.
Yeah. So that's Tanook Hines. Did we really not talk about him? I can't, dude. I'm struggling. All right.
We didn't talk about him today.
Okay. So Texas, USC, Notre Dame. Oh, it was before we started recording. That's what it was. And he's at Baylor this weekend. Another tough one to read, but I think that Notre Dame is very much in the mix. Might even be the leader, I
I
might
think
say.
I
You
think
think
so.
so too? Yeah.
That's
July 5th commitment dates. Inside Texas at On 3 reported that. So we're not far from a decision from Hines. And I do like where the Irish are out there. I think Notre Dame and USC, another Notre Dame USC recruiting battle. I think those are the two top schools to watch for him. And I surprisingly feel really good about Derek Meadows. I mean, he's at Alabama right now. We'll see where he's at after that. But you would just think with Notre Dame being the leader for such a long time, then you get Georgia and Bama and some of these school LSU jump in the mix, and then he takes those official visits. You would think that you might be trending away from the Irish, but his official visit went so well that I like where Notre Dame's at there. So I think they end up landing three of the four. But yeah, Meadows is definitely a very crucial target for the Irish, Kyle.
And what I find interesting about this recruitment is I'm not certain he's a priority for Alabama. Now, part of that is because I don't cover Alabama, and admittedly, I'm not, I legitimately am not certain, like where he stands on their board. But as I was just kind of reading some of the coverage of him from Bama Online, they already have one wide receiver in the class. They have another guy that can play wide receiver. I think they're only going to take one or two more guys, and they stand in a good spot right now for Khalil Lockett, who is like a 5-star guy. I think he's from Texas. He's an outstanding wide receiver, and they're a good position for him. And the other thing here that I kind of found interesting is some of our subscribers posted on our loose emoji message board that there was a tweet out there, the Alabama commit, Keelan Russell, who named like 5 or 6 guys that he's prioritizing and hitting them up, wants to get them in the class, and like 3 or 4 of those guys were wide receivers. Not one of them was Derek Meadows. Now I will say, like, I think that's blown out of proportion. Could be just simple as he forgot to mention Derek Meadows, like something as simple as that. But I just found that fascinating when I was doing some digging about his Alabama recruitment this week. As seems like there's some other guys that they've maybe they like a little bit more at this point in the process.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, I right now, if you maybe pick, I think Dylan Robinson, Sinokines, and Derek Meadows. I think the Irish on all three of them, but we will see. And then Jadon Blair, we've talked about. Yeah, big target for Notre Dame. Also a July 5th commitment, like where the Irish are at. And then do you want to add 30 seconds on Jadon? Do you have anything? He's at Michigan right now. Penn State, excuse me.
Penn State.
Penn State right now. And I think in order it's Notre Dame at the top, Michigan 2, Penn State 3. That's what I think right now.
I think Penn State led for a good part of this recruitment, especially after Chris O'Leary left Notre Dame. Michigan's made a big run lately, so I'm just really going to be watching to see where Penn State comes out of this official visit for Jadon. I don't think they have a safety commit. Like I mentioned earlier, I really dissected a lot of this stuff and some of my reporting I did on Blue and Gold on our website today. But yeah, we're going to be very intrigued to see what the buzz is coming out of Blair's trip to State College.
Yeah, and then you really just in terms of what's next or what to expect next, you got Ivan Taylor's at Michigan right now. Notre Dame's got to keep him locked in. I debated even bringing this up because I just don't buy it at all. Ole Miss people trying to speak this crap into existence, but Duce Knight flipping to Ole Miss. That's what the Rebels want you to believe. I just don't buy it at all. But also, I mean, we posted the story the other day, and Duce Knight was asked flat out, "Do you think you'll visit Ole Miss?" And he said, "Maybe I might, maybe I won't." I was like, okay. So take that for what it's worth. But Duce Knight looks to be pretty darn locked in. We're not going to spend any more time on that. So to kind of put a bow on this, guys, Notre Dame's got 21 commitments. I think they'll take 3 more receivers. So there's 24. I would be done on offense. I think you got 1 to 2 more linebackers and a safety. So I think you're probably looking at 25, 26. It could be 27 if they take 3 receivers, 2 linebackers, and another safety. But then there's different variables like an Ivan Taylor flip, and then you'd replace him, or what exactly they would do with that. So there's still some various scenarios out there, but I think it'll end up being somewhere between 25 on the lower end, 27 on the high end. So probably like 26 is a safe bet for right now. Who knows? Maybe there's a surprise thrown in there. We'll have to see. Kyle, quick question for you. And I don't have an answer yet, so I hope you do. One big takeaway from Notre Dame's summer official visits, whether it's a specific player they made a move with or a theme, really anything, as you reflect on this month for Notre Dame, what are you thinking?
I think this answer is kind of lame, but I'm going to give it anyway. I think the biggest thing was community this summer. I think
I like
that
it.
Notre Dame did an outstanding job, from Chad Bowden to Marcus Freeman to every one of those assistant coaches to the recruiting staffers that work behind the scenes to Carter Allman.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Yeah, we'll talk about that next.
Yeah. So Carter Allman, the recruiting analyst, uh, just did an outstanding job of making everyone feel welcome, everyone feel at home. And I asked Derek Meadows' father when I had talked to him on Sunday after their official visit. I said, "You guys have been everywhere lately. What makes Notre Dame stand out against the rest?" And it was basically, he said, the community, the people, how kind they are. Um, it's just been the theme of Notre Dame. That's how they've built this class. That's how they've kept this class committed. That's how that the last cycle they pretty much had no decommitments. Obviously Isaiah Kanian, but I know Owen Wayful, like, he was a guy that parted ways. But yeah, I mean that's basically been the big theme and big takeaway from these Notre Dame official visits, and now it's just going to be all about waiting to see if a lot of those targets felt the same thing, and if they jump into the fold. And right now, I think they're in a good spot with a lot of those guys, and they're buying what Notre Dame's selling.
Yeah, so this came together pretty quickly yesterday, at least in terms of the reporting. Thursday, Football Scoop's John Bryce, 9 a.m. or so, put out that Wisconsin's trying to poach away Carter Allman for director of player personnel role. And then by the afternoon, Bryce and Blue and Gold confirmed that Allman got a promotion out of it. I don't know how serious, how seriously like Allman was looking at taking that job, but this guy's career path is really neat and kind of gives a vibe of like, okay, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish it. Kind of feel. He went to Notre Dame as a student, was like a student manager with the quarterbacks. I don't know what all that entailed, but he, was a student at Notre Dame, worked with quarterbacks, graduated May 2022, got a job with Chad Bowden, working in the recruiting office. And then as he continued to get familiar with the recruiting office role. And then you had Dre Brown go to Illinois and Caleb Parker go to Troy. It was just kind of worked out where Carter kept ascending in his career, and then it opened up for him. So now he is, and I love this, it's not assistant general manager. It's assistant to the general manager. And Office fans will get a crack out of that because it's very a Dwight Schrute. Not assistant regional manager, it's assistant to the regional manager. So, but yeah, Carter's great. I mean, you mentioned Derek Meadows. When I interviewed him Sunday night, asked him about how his official visit went, the first thing he said was, I mean, I got there and I saw Carter Allman and a big smile on his face and greeted me. Like, that was the first thing that Derek Meadows said. So Carter does a really good job. Like, the coaching staffs are important, right? Your assistant coach, your coordinator, your head coach. It's such a boost when you get the recruiting office that can, like, some of those guys, they're not just putting together spreadsheets and booking travel and that stuff. They're actually able to help a college get a prospect. That's how you know that you're really got a good recruiting office staffer. That's obviously Chad Bowden, and I think that's Carter Allman As well. Yeah, Drew says 2 years gets big promo. Yeah. I mean, to go from a student manager to 2 years later, a big role, promotion, duty, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, congrats, Carter. I would say my big takeaway, Kyle, would be Duce Knight. And I mean, look, Irish Invasion, he spent several days, before and after there, back for his official visit, but was on campus, I believe, a few days before that official visit. I mean, he spent double-digit days, I think, in the month of June, really since the end of the On3 Elite Series in Nashville. So, like, end of May, early June, before the official visit. I'm sure he spent double-digit days in South Bend this month. So I think that, like, Duce Knight, and it's not like sit down and have recruiting meetings anymore between Duce and those staff. It's like how they are they are very, very tight. And I think that relationship just grew leaps and bounds. I think what you saw from Duce at the Elite 11, I think you can credit that to, we know that John Anthony Hall threw with Duce Knight, right? So I'm sure during that, that little camp type deal, that Duce got continued work with Gino Guidugli. So Duce Knight's getting instruction from Gino before the Elite 11, and then Duce Knight goes and lights it up at the Elite 11. I think Duce Knight sees, man, look what Gino can do with me here. I think that's really exciting. So that would be my big takeaway, is just how well the month of June went for Duce Knight. And still, I mean, he's got the Rivals 5-Star Challenge this, I think, next weekend in Jacksonville. Looking forward to seeing reports on how he does there. Man, having a camp in Jacksonville, like a showcase event, not to crap on Rivals, but in Jacksonville, of all the places, never mind. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how he does there. And I think just a great month for Notre Dame and Duce Knight. And then at the same time, Ole Miss thinks they're flipping them. I think they're wild. I think they're wild for that. But they're trying to LeVar Ball it, Kyle. Speak it into existence, my friend. So,
got to do something, I guess, when that's all you have.
Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video if you have not done so yet. It really helps support what we do here at Blue and Gold, and subscribe to our channel for more content. Kyle, that's going to wrap it up. Nice weekend ahead for you, my friend. I wish that you have that. And for folks watching or listening, enjoy a weekend as well with your family. Stay safe. And yeah, we're going to wrap up the show. Hit the thumbs up if you have not done so yet. And as always, we will catch you next time.